Hey everybody, what's going on? I want to talk today about the light-dark monster selection part of this event because I see a lot of questions, rightfully so. This is kind of an important decision. Light-dark scrolls are pretty rare. Even if you're a spender, they're pretty rare. But if you're a free-to-play player, you don't come by them super frequently. So I've got all of the possibilities summoned down here. And I thought we would go through and I would talk about all of them and just some general tips about the event in general so you don't kind of waste the potential in the event because this is going to be going on for a while. So the first thing I want to say is it's probably worth waiting a little bit, at least until you get all the light dark scrolls from the rest of the parts of the event. There's quite a few light dark scrolls available, and it would be a real shame for you to pick one from here and then pull them from a scroll later, okay? So I know it's kind of tough. For example, I want to do a video on this for you guys where we pop all 9 in a video, and I'm going crazy. I'm losing my mind, but I'm almost there. We need 1,000 more coins till I'm at 5K, and we can knock that out. But I'm really itching to see who I'm gonna get from that. But that's just more my own thing. This one, it's worth waiting because again, it would be a real shame to pick someone from here right out of the gate and then pull them from one of the scrolls that you get from the event, okay? Another thing I want you to be sure that you don't do is that you don't pick someone who has a secret dungeon. And the way that you can check this to verify if there's someone that you've got your eye on that you want to grab, you can come into your crafting building and you can go to the others tab, and here's where you can craft a random secret dungeon of any given element. You can see the list of all the possible SDs for every element. So come in here and look at your light dark list and make sure you're not about to grab someone that you can farm, because that would also be kind of devastating. For example, Dark Inugami is an incredible monster, but you can get him from a secret dungeon, so it would be a real bummer to grab him from that event. So make sure that whoever you're gonna grab is not in any of these lists, okay? Now, as far as the actual monsters go, we're just gonna go through and I'm gonna talk about who I think are good picks for this, depending on what you are interested in, okay? If my event tab will load here. I've got a video uploading, and over here in Australia, the internet doesn't like to do more than one thing at a time, so. All right, so. Let's go through and talk about some of the light monsters that are cool and why they're cool, okay? I can't really tell you who to pick. It's gonna kind of depend on what your interests are, what you're focusing on, who you like, what you've already pulled, what you're doing, where you're at in the game. I can't really give you a clear-cut pick this monster, but there's a handful of them that I could say pick from this pool of monsters. All right, so going through it, Light Amazon is a really cool monster. She can do some huge damage. She used to be really popular in speed teams, especially if you had 2 of them. She can do some just real crazy damage. If you have 2 of them, they could one-shot the giant. But she's kind of niche in that way. She's not someone that's gonna, like, I don't think, change a whole bunch for you. She's just kind of a fun one if you wanted to play around with something like that. The Light Golem, one of my personal favorite light monsters. He's really, really cool. Unless something's changed, he's got a passive where he can't take more than 20% of his HP in damage. So you have to hit him 5 times to kill him. And then he's also got a little bit of sustain built in. He's got some immunity. I think he's got a taunt or a provoke or something. Let's double check that real quick. I don't want to be saying stuff that's just flat out wrong. Where is he? Am I just all the way blind? There we go. So yeah, we've got a provoke here on the A1. Oh, a stun and a provoke. And then here we've got defense buff and immunity and attack bar increase. And then the passive, he can't take more than 20%. So he's, again, not like a game changer necessarily, but I used to really enjoy him in Guild Wars. He can be really, really fun in Guild Wars. And if the team doesn't have a way to deal with him, especially if you put him on like Vamp or something, he kind of can't die. You know what I mean? They kind of can't get rid of him. So if they don't have a lot of sustain and you've got a little bit of sustain, he can do some pretty cool stuff in Guild Wars. So he's really fun. Again, not like a game changer, Not someone I would say to take early on in the game for sure, but I thought I wanted to talk about him because he is he might be my favorite light Nat 3. I'm a big fan of him. Marble, also really cool. I'm a big fan of all the elephants. I'm working on building him right now, actually. He's got some pretty cool stuff. He's got some max HP damage and just some fun stuff. He's a little bit more of a damage dealer than Basalt. Basalt focuses a little bit more on team support and crowd control type stuff, and he focuses a little bit more on damage. The game gives you her, or no, that's the Light Fairy, not the Light Fairy Queen. So I wouldn't bother over the other options. Escher, he's gonna be one of the ones that is like, he's in the pool of you're picking from these monsters, okay? The Light Werewolf is really, really cool. He's really good at a lot of things. He's got a great 2A. He's definitely in the pool for pick from these monsters, okay? Very, very good. He's a little bit more niche. The Light Griffin is a little bit more niche, but what he's good at, he's really good at. He's good. When he's 2A'd, he's got some cool mechanics against dark monsters. He takes half the damage from dark monsters that everyone else takes, and he does 100% extra damage to dark monsters. So anywhere that there's a dark boss, particularly, he can really speed that up. He's great. I think people use him in a Trickaroo team in Necro. I think they replace Verd with him. And then I think he's got some other places that he shines. But again, a little bit more niche than someone like Escher or Ashir, however you want to say it. But so I don't know if I'd put him in the pool of like, these are the ones you're choosing from, but he is really cool. He is really good. Bella has a secret dungeon, so I would not grab Bella from here. And then I think maybe the Light Harpy. When I used to play back in the day, she had the highest base speed in the game. I don't know if that's still the case. Maybe the highest base speed of any attack bar booster it was. Maybe not the highest in the game, but maybe the highest of any booster. Let's check her speed real quick. There she is. So yeah, 120 base speed, and then she's got a 30% attack bar boost and a crit hit reduction buff, right? And then multiple enemies at once, and then a defense down in anyone. She's solid. She's pretty decent for speed booster teams, but not like incredibly game changing all around or anything. All right, very cool monster though. Definitely one to be looking at. I don't know why I clicked that tab, but I don't think she quite makes the cut for being in that pool. And then this is Shren. I'm a big fan of Shren, but again, perhaps a little bit more niche. Maybe like, Guild War type stuff. Very big damage coming out of Shren and never at elemental disadvantage, so that's pretty cool. And then Amon is also cool, but he's got a secret dungeon. All right, so I think the standouts for Light are Light Amazon, Light Golem, Light Elephant, Light Werewolf, Light Griffin, Light Harpy, Light High Elemental. I watched a Jubagel video yesterday. It's from like a year ago about the Light Mystic Witch 2-aid. She's also really cool, but I think she's very stat intensive to be really cool. So I guess it's worth mentioning, but it'll probably be a while before you could like make her shine the way you need to make her shine for what she's good at, okay? I think personally the number one standout in the Light screen is the Light Werewolf. So if you don't have the Light Werewolf, I think he's one to very strongly consider taking. I think perhaps Light Werewolf might be the way to go if you don't have him. But we talked about some other pretty solid options here as well, okay? The dark side is where it gets a little bit trickier. I think there's a lot more clear-cut winners on the dark side, all right? So, let's start up here. This is Basalt. If you heard anyone talk about Basalt, he's the Dark Battle Mammoth. And he's just crazy, man. He's got a Provoke on the A1, a heal and a defense buff on the A2, AoE turn meter knockback on the A3, and it's very common to put him in a despair set so that sometimes he also lands stuns with his A3. He's very, very good. He makes TOA so much easier. I use him in a lot of different places in the game. Sometimes I'll sneak him into RTA. In the lower ranks of RTA, he's usable. I use him in Guild Wars. I use him in Tartarus. He's very usable. Very worth a 6-star. Among the best LD Nat 3s for sure. So he is 100% in the pool of you're picking out of these monsters. If you don't have Basalt, I would highly suggest that you consider Basalt. Dark Martial Cat's also really cool. I think probably more specifically for PvP. When she's 2A'd, she can't be killed by a critical hit. And this used to be quite a bigger deal before people kind of, before there were more options, I guess, to deal with something like this. Because you couldn't really specifically build at the higher levels of RTA, specifically build for her, because you need your monsters landing crit hits generally. So it used, when she first showed up on the scene, it was very interesting. I think now probably not quite as much, because again, there's a lot of monsters that can do heavy damage that don't crit. But she is really cool, so definitely worth talking about, but I don't know that I would put her in the pool of like, you gotta pick from this pool, okay? Dark Werewolf is also a very cool monster, Jolton. He's like maybe the closest to being in the group, but maybe not quite in the group of must-haves, but he is really good, man. He is really cool. He's really cool, but I don't know. I think there's a couple of other ones that edge him out of the group a little bit without making the group too big, okay? But he is very cool. This is another one of the must-haves. He's probably in the top 3. I think Thrain is, again, arguably the best. Thrain and Basalt are in the conversation probably for the best LD3s, all right? Light or dark. Thrain is ridiculous, and I don't even have him 2A'd yet, and he's insane. He's a large part of why I've gotten his, was able to clear TOA hard. He's ridiculous. So if you don't have Thrain or Basalt, you're in a tough spot because they're both ridiculous, okay? Flip a coin. Dot Machine, he's got stuns, and then 280 gets some turn meter cycling. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on in here, but it only happens when I'm recording, so there you go. Moving right along. Again, another cool one, but not someone I would put in the group. Mantura, the Dark Serpent. Now, this one's an interesting one for me because Mantura might be my favorite, like my personal favorite, but I don't know if Mantura is as impactful as he used to be, and that kind of hurts my feelings a little bit. But I've gotten to the point where I still haven't pulled a Mantura, but I'm also considering not picking Mantura from the event because I've already done TOA and TOA hard. You know what I mean? So like, that's where Mantura really shines. Mantura can do other things as well. I used to use Mantura in Guild Wars a little bit, some of the lower ranking Guild Wars, but Mantura is still very, very good. Let's go talk about Mantura's kit real quick, just so we can get an idea. So we've got a strip on the A1. We've got an AoE slow on the A2. And then look at the skill ups. That's on a 2-turn cooldown, skilled up. And then here we've got an AoE defense down with dots. So that's just a lot of stuff. That's a lot of really good stuff. The AoE defense down with dots and the slow fits Mantura into several different comps for TOA. Again, Mantura particularly shines. Why do I keep going to the shop to get back down there? Particularly good in TOA. Of course, can be used in other places, but just a really cool monster. I would love it if the Serpent's got a 2A. I would love for Mantura to kind of climb back up, because I think with some of the 2As we've got now, Mantura is just not quite as impactful. Now, if you pull Mantura, I mean, definitely build and use. And if you've already got Basalt and Thrain, then Mantura is in the conversation, I would say. I just don't know if in the current scene of the game, Mantura competes quite as heavily with those two anymore. And maybe I would feel differently if I pulled one and built Mantura, and then I'd be like, oh, wait. You know what I mean? But it just kind of feels, I'm feeling right now like, what would I do with Mantura? I've already done what I would do with Mantura, so that's why I'm a little bit on the fence about it. But Mantura is still a fantastic option, okay? So the top three so far are Battle Mammoth, Grim Reaper, and Serpent, all right? The next one is one I'm highly considering taking if I don't pull from my next summon session, and that's the Dark Bounty Hunter Jamie. He's just a really unique one. He's really cool. He's really fun in raids. That's where I would use him specifically, is in raids. He's got an interesting combination of skills that you just don't see a lot. So he's got 2 precise shots. Each hit has a chance to ignore the enemy's defense, which is pretty cool. He's got this A2, 2 arrows, and attacks consecutively with a 30% chance. Attacks consecutively with a 50% chance if the enemy's HP is higher. I've seen this pop off a ridiculous amount of shots in a row. So there's potential here for him to output some ridiculous damage just because of how much he can shoot with this. It's kind of like Ralk's A1, where he can just, sometimes he'll just pop off and keep attacking. So that's really cool. And then on the A3, he's got a full team cleanse attack power buff. So you've got this interesting damage dealer with a little bit of ignored defense and cool mechanics there, and then out of nowhere, just a full team cleanse with an attack power buff. I really like him in raids. So I'm highly considering grabbing him because I miss him. He's a lot of fun. So now when I put him in the pool, like, is he on par with these three? No. No. So if you don't have these three, I wouldn't take him over them for sure. But he's real cool, and I wanted to talk about him. So he's not in the pool of, like, you need to grab from these guys, but I do like him a lot. I think he's a lot of fun. He's probably who I'm going to take. And as far as I know, that's kind of all that's worth talking about. I feel like Dark Frankenstein, there's some cool stuff with him where he's done like an insane amount of damage, but it's more of like a meme, I think, than anything else. I don't think it's actual utility. So yeah, Battle Mammoth, Grim Reaper, I think are the top 2 on the dark side of things. I think if you don't have these 2, it's one of these 2. And if you have one, then it's the other. I think these are your top 2 picks here. And then I think Mantura is also a great option. I just love Mantura. I think Dark Werewolf is a great option. I think Jamie's really cool, okay? So if we were gonna like cram this down to like a top 3 for you to pick that you don't have total, like from the whole thing, it's Basalt, Thrain, and the Light Werewolf, in my opinion. I think those are probably the top 3 to take if you don't have. And then Mantura probably edges into the top 5, and then perhaps the Dark Werewolf. Okay? So that's it. That's some thoughts on the monster selection process here. I've got a summon session to do, and I've got a few LDs, and I'm waiting to see if I pull someone before I go grab someone from that event. But I think if I don't get Jamie from the Light Dark Scrolls, I think I'm probably going to take Jamie from the event. Because again, I'm a fan of him. He's fun. So that's that. I hope this was helpful. If you have any thoughts on any of the monsters that I talked about or any that I did not talk about, and you want to drop them in the comments, I would appreciate that. I know these are all just my thoughts and opinions, and certain things may have certainly changed. Maybe some of these monsters got buffed and I haven't gotten my way around to finding that out yet. Maybe there's some stuff that some of these monsters are really good at that would be great for newer players to know. Definitely, if you have any information or insight like that, please drop it in the comments below. I would appreciate it, as I'm sure everyone else would. Other than that, I hope this was helpful. I'm going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys.